Hello everybody. I wanted to do another video in this kind of series examining some different physical models that I have been shown and taught that seem to be really good models to help understand some aspects of spiritual things that go on. So I'm a Christian and go to a normal church and read the same Bible and everything. But I feel like there's certain practical principles that are being lost these days. If you look at the way that Jesus spoke, he came along and he put things into a context that people could understand. If he was talking to farmers, then he was putting it into farming terms, and if he was talking to fishermen, he was putting it into fisherman terms. He was very practical with the way that he put things to people. Um, and I feel like I've been shown a lot of different practical models. I have another video on exercising and weightlifting and some things that I've been shown how that relates to spiritual things. So I recommend checking that one out if you are into exercising and that type of thing. This one is plants, actually. The Bible makes a lot of plant references and makes that comparison a lot. And I feel like I've been shown some things that might benefit you, um, that might help you if you're going through a good time or a rough time or whatever time you're going through, or just to help gain some perspective on things. So I have a fern that I bought, and I have it right by my desk, and I look at the fern a lot, and I think about it. Um, and so just some things, some comparisons. A plant doesn't grow immediately overnight. If you're starting from nothing, if you're starting from a seed or a small plant, it takes a while to grow. Similarly, as a Christian, or even if you're not a Christian, um, there's wisdom to be gleaned here, but specifically in a Christian context, the Spirit as a growing thing doesn't. It's not something that just sprouts immediately. It takes time and growth, I believe, generally speaking. Now, of course, God does amazing things, and there could be other situations, but generally speaking, I think that the vast majority of us experience this growth over time. If we look at who we were before we really started walking with God, um, within the first year, 2 years, or whatever, after coming to Jesus, you may not have really noticed substantial growth. Well, just like a plant, sometimes it can take time. There's different kinds of plants that grow different speeds. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and that can be a great morale booster because if you're anything like me, you're very hard on yourself, and it's easy to lose sight of the fact that there is growth going on. Just like if I sit here and I stare at my fern every day, I see it every day. I'm not going to notice, you know, growth, generally speaking. But if I were to not look at my fern for a year, I would definitely notice growth. So keep that in mind, especially if you're going through a hard time. Um, from our own wrapped up perspective, it's kind of hard to see. But anyways, another thing to keep in mind, comparison between plants and spiritual things, is they require cultivation. They require attention. The Bible makes the comparison about a wild uh, olive branch and a grafted olive branch, and if we are the cultivated one that's grafted in, then we require cultivation and attention. If you've taken care of a plant before, or roses or flowers or whatever, you kind of understand what this means. You have to prune. You have to look for any diseases that might be on the plant. You have to do all these different. You have to water it. Just on a most fundamental level, there's basic things you have to do to keep a plant healthy. You have to water it. You have to give it light. Um, just basic things. Our spirits aren't much different. If you have a plant and that plant needs to be watered every day or twice a day, and you water it once a week, the plant's going to die. Similarly, with your spirit, uh, or it'll wither. It may not die completely, but it won't be looking very good. Similarly, if you go to church once a week, for example, or you never open the Word of God and read it, you know, it's kind of safe to say that you're probably not going to see any exponential growth in your spiritual life. Um, the Spirit requires living water, you know, just like a plant. Take care of it, give it that water. It requires light. The Bible talks a lot about light. Um, I encourage you to you can Google what does the Bible say about light, for example, and it'll likely give you a ton of passages that relate to light. And so I'd recommend that. And if you're anything like me and you like physics, study light and physics. That's a great physical model that God has used to help me understand what He means by light. I think we kind of take that for granted sometimes. But plants require light to grow. Some of them require direct sunlight, some of them not so much. The thing that actually prompted me to make this particular video was I'm looking at my fern, considering that it's kind of obvious that plants need light. But then it occurred to me that a lot of plants you have to rotate them. You have to give them even sunlight. And I started thinking about how there's some plants that you can actually see them growing toward the light. If you rotate the plant, you will actually be able to see the branches or the vines or whatever start to grow back from the non-direct sunlight side toward the sun. And I think that our spirits are very much that way. And that started me to thinking about how um, God sometimes shines His light on different areas of our lives and to produce more growth. Um, Financial part of our lives, or health, or family, or whatever it is. Um, we can think of that as sort of God rotating the plant of our spirit and putting direct sunlight on different areas. Um, and that hadn't occurred to me before in this model. Um, but water and light are very, very important to plant cultivation. And similarly, um, the Word of God, uh, fellowship and communion with people, love. That's a word that's misused a lot and thrown around a lot, and it's kind of been trampled on. And most people associate it with sexual things these days. But real love is like nutrients in the soil for our spirit, and we need all these things to grow spiritually. Um, Anyways, this is just sort of a brief overview of some things that I've been shown to give you things to think about and start to help you make some connections outside of you know the sort of high level language of the Bible, to make it more accessible and try to put it into different contexts that may apply to you specifically. So, like I say, I have another video on exercising and weightlifting and how that relates to spiritual things. So if you're not a plant person, but you are an exercise workout person, I encourage you to go check that out. Thank you for watching.